All right, everyone, welcome back to the next episode of the Ramblin Rebels podcast. Big 20 today, and it's going to be Coach Pierce with us today. How are you doing today, Coach Pierce?
I'm good. How are y'all?
I'm great. I'm great.
Doing well.
I'm really excited. 20th episode, great things going. So tell us a little bit about you, like just who you are, where you came from, just you.
Okay. I'm from around here. I grew up in Kenner. Went to Rummel for high school, Archbishop Rummel in Metairie. When I was there, our current head coach, Coach Lee Roussel, he was my offensive line coach from my freshman through senior year. I played there. I started for 3 years, 2 of them at center, 1 of them at tackle on the football team. I was a student body president. I was an ambassadors, Mu Alpha Theta. I was a captain on the track team as well as the football team. I did a lot of stuff in high school. I was there 6:30 in the morning to 6:30 at night every day. That was my routine. From there, I went to LSU. I spent about 2 years there, and I was at the point in life where I didn't really want to do anything anymore. Like, I did so many different activities and stuff in high school that I was like, you know what, I'm going to just do school, and that's it. And that's when I quickly found out that that's not what I'm good at doing. I need to be involved with stuff. I need to be accountable to other people other than just myself. And for that reason, I ended up calling Coach Lee. He got the job as the offensive line coach at Nichols right after my senior football season. So he left and went to Nichols when I went to LSU. And he had asked me when I was graduating high school, was like, hey, would you want to come? And I wouldn't be able to get you any pay just yet. It would be a volunteer type situation to start. But so if you wanted to get into coaching at some point in life, I think this would be a good avenue, and you could be a student assistant football coach and just kind of be my assistant, my helper, that kind of situation. And at the time, I was like, that's not really what I want to do. I'm kind of done playing football, done with football as far as didn't really want to get into coaching. Had a couple of offers at some small schools to play, but I was 5'9" and 225 pounds. I wasn't about to go play the level of football that I wanted to play. So for that reason, I was like, it's between playing a smaller level of football and just going to school. I'm just going to go to school. So turned him down at that point, but it was about January of 2017. I graduated high school in 2015. January of 2017, I made the decision. I was like, I'm gonna call Coach Lee. I need to get back in the ball. That's where I need to be. So I called him, and he was like, yeah, man, I'd love to have you. It would have to be a volunteer thing to start, but eventually over time we'll be able to get you like a salary and be an actual like graduate assistant and an intern type job, and then we'll see where it goes from there. And so that's what I did. And I spent 5 years at Nichols. So if you're doing the math there, that's a lot of time in college. I spent a lot of time in college, but really enjoyed it. Enjoyed my time in Baton Rouge. Enjoyed my time in Thibodeau even more. And then after my last year coaching at Nichols, Coach Lee got the head coaching job over here. And anybody that asks, anybody from that I talk to, whether it's Miss Holly or somebody from the school board or whatever, they always said whenever Coach Lee got this job, his first thing was I need to bring Pierce with me. And that's always meant the world to me. That he's looked at me in that light, that if he's going to take this job, that it means something that I come with him. And so it wasn't even a question. He asked me, he said, so you coming? I said, absolutely. I didn't ask about what the pay was, didn't ask about what the schedule was going to be. That didn't matter. I was coming to coach football. And with my time at Nichols, I was able to understand how important it is to believe in the same beliefs as your boss, whether that's in the building with Miss Holly, whether that's on the field with Coach Lee. I have similar beliefs to what they do, and that makes the job easy. So that's how I kind of got from being a kid from Kenner to here.
So tell us a little bit more about your high school years playing football. What was that like?
So I played in the Catholic League. A lot of people talk about the Catholic League as far as that's, especially in the state of Louisiana, that's the league. That's what you have people every year coming out of the Catholic League. And I was on the team in 2011. We ended up going to the semifinals. We lost to Byrd in Shreveport. The week before, we beat Acadiana, knocked them off. It was a big upset. That year, we had a pretty good team. They were 2 years removed from playing in the state championship. And that 2009 team got beat pretty good in the state championship by West Monroe. And this was before the select and non-select split. So there's 5 championships, 1A through 5A. Public, private, select, non-select, didn't matter. 5 state championships. So that 2011 year was a cool year. It was my first time in my life that I was on the sideline. Like, I never, ever, especially players, growing up, you see, if you're playing high school football, a lot of times growing up, you're playing, if not just on one side of the ball, both sides of the ball. So that's what I was used to. I was always in the game. Offense, defense, specialty was always on the field. This is what I was used to. Well, as a freshman, we had a pretty good team, and we had some older guys. I rotated in at practice and stuff with the first group, but like I wasn't a starter at that point, and that was a big shakeup to me. I wasn't used to that, and so I was at the point after that first year. I was like, I don't know if this, I'm cut out for this. Like I'm not playing. This bothers me. It bothered me. I wasn't used to being on the sideline. So then at that next year, I made it a point. Like they had a couple guys graduating, and if there's a spot to fill, I'm playing. Like I'm not sitting on the sideline another year. So I played to my strengths. At that time, I was probably 5'7", 5'8", 195 pounds. Like I wasn't ready to play in the Catholic League physically, so I knew that I had to be ready mentally. So that's where I put my time, my focus into. Of course, I put time in the weight room, but that stuff was going to take time. Whereas the mental aspect of it, that's where I focused most of my time. So I made it a point that if I was going to force you to have to take me off the field. I was mentally going to be, even though I was 15 years old at the time, I was like, I'm going to be the smartest offensive lineman on the field because that's what I have to do to get on the field. That's what I'm going to do.
Please excuse the interruption. At this time, will all the baseball teams.
So the next year, it was 2012. We had a really good football team. Our quarterback ended up signing with Mississippi State. That year, he was a senior going into that 2012 season. We had a tight end ended up signing with Nebraska. He still is in the NFL. He ended up signing on draft day with the Cincinnati Bengals. Spent a few years there, then got signed on a second contract with the Miami Dolphins. Spent a few years there, and then signed a third contract with the Dolphins. Really good player, Ethan Carter. He was awesome dude, awesome player, and that team had a lot of good leadership and a lot of guys that they were freshmen on that team that lost pretty bad in the state championship. And at that time, Rumble hadn't won a state championship, so it meant a lot to those dudes. They were like, we want to be the group that brings a championship home. So that team ended up being really good. We went 15-0. There was not a whole lot of close games. I mean, there was a couple, but there wasn't a ton of close games. That was the best football team that school's ever had. And at that time, the Catholic League was stacked. I mean, 2011, they had Deion Jones signed with LSU, played for the Falcons, still is in the NFL. I think he's with the Browns now. Debo Jones, dude was a beast. Tanner Lee was the quarterback at Jesuit. He played on linebacker at Jesuit. Tanner Lee was the quarterback at Jesuit. He ended up signing with Tulane. I think he played a little bit of time in the NFL as a backup or practice squad guy with the Colts. Leonard Fournette, everybody knows him. He was a year. He ended up graduating in 2014. He was a year older than me. St. Aug ended up having 17 guys signed Division I scholarships on that 2014 team. Brother Martin had Irv Smith, plays for the Minnesota Vikings, played at Alabama. They had a couple more. Rod Teamer played at Brother Martin. He played at Tulane. Now he plays for the the Las Vegas Raiders. They had a lot of talent in the Catholic League at that time. Shaw had a guy, Trey Regis, ended up starting at UL for a few years at running back. And I mean, we had a few guys, Damian, the quarterback, and Sethan, the tight end I had talked about. Christian Fulton's starting corner for the Tennessee Titans, played at LSU. Jamar, of course, everybody knows Jamar. Jamar played. He was a freshman my senior year. He played at LSU. Now he plays. Obviously, he was Rookie of the Year, Blitnikoff winner. Jamar's a dude. I know I'm forgetting guys off the top of my head, but they had a lot of dudes in the Catholic League at that time. It was competition every week, and so that's what really was tough. I mean, and our pre-district schedule was tough too. We played Catholic High every year. Darius Geis, guy's made some bad decisions in his life, but on the field was a dude. They had a couple guys at Catholic High that went and played a few years longer in college NFL type guys. They had we played against Acadiana, we played against Dutchtown. Justin Reed, that plays for the Chiefs, he played at Dutchtown. I mean, they had guys everywhere every week. I mean, that's South Louisiana football. So it was competition every week, and that made us better. You know, like I know we talk a lot about our past season. The level of competition early in the year was maybe a little bit higher than it was towards the end of the year, and we kind of saw that bite us in the first round. So that's the kind of stuff that kept us eager and kept us hungry every week, and it was easier to stay hungry. Now it's a little bit more of a self-intrinsic motivational style. That's a little bit different. It wasn't an extrinsic style, so it was cool. I mean, I had a good time playing football in high school. We ended up winning in 2012, winning in 2013. That was the first year that they broke it into the select and non-select. So we won the last 5A in the first Division I. And then my senior year was supposed to be pretty good. We ended up being, towards the end of the season, ranked number 6 in the country on Max Preps and got upset in the semifinals. And actually, last week, whenever we went to the district championship track meet at Tad Gorman, that's the first time since November 29, 2014 that I had been back to Tad Gorman where we lost that game. And I remember that day to the day I die. November 29, 2014. That's the last football game I got to play. But that Jesuit team was good. They ended up winning state. Foster Morrow. Sad situation with him going on right now. I mean, he went to LSU. He got drafted by the Raiders, and then he's a free agent this offseason and was going to his different visits and stuff and was on a physical with the Saints and found out, unfortunately, the guy has cancer, and that's a terrible situation. I'm hoping the best for him, but really good player. Anyway, I went to the middle school. I went to a lot of the guys went to Jesuit, so I was a good friend with a lot of guys that went to Jesuit and played with him. They all liked him, say he's a really good dude. So horrible situation going on with him, but yeah, I mean those 4 years I'll cherish for the rest of my life. I really enjoyed my time playing high school football.
So what would you say got you into football? What was a big thing that pushed you to decide, hey, I do want to play football in high school?
So growing up, my mom, she pushed it. I mean, she loved football. She was an athlete in college. She was a swimmer. She went to Hornville and she swam in college for a small school in Missouri. She went to the Olympic trials. Was an alternate on the 1992 team. I mean, she was a beast. She was an athlete. She was tough. She taught me what it was to be tough, and she a lot of times, anytime I at a track meet or whatever, I talk to your mom. A lot of the same traits that your mom is. She's tough. She's on you. She's your biggest supporter, but she's always the one that's gonna. She'll tell you.
She tells me all the time.
If she feels like you didn't play well, she ain't afraid to tell you. She feels like you didn't play well, and that's the same way my mom was. I remember getting in the car after a football game, and I know I didn't play to the standards that I like to play to. I was like, I didn't play well this week. Whether it was whatever reason it was. I mean. But the second I got in the car, 15 years old, sophomore, playing against 18, 19-year-olds, I'm beat up. My mom would say, you didn't play too good, huh? I would say, yeah, Mom, I know I didn't play too good. All right, just making sure you know that before we get in the car and go home. She was tough on me, but she loved football growing up. Her dad actually played in the NFL, we've been a football family since I was a kid. I played all sports growing up, but football was the one I really cared about.
Right.
So the support that for the football team this past year that we've had, and how you've hosted pretty much all of the prep rallies, and would you say it's different from how Nichols treats football? Would you say that it's the same?
So, whenever we had first gotten to Nichols, especially when Coach Lee got there in 2015, they weren't in a great place. They just fired their head coach. They had the longest active losing streak in college football, and a 26-game losing streak. That's 2.5 years. They were not in a good place. So whenever that staff had gotten there, people in the area were craving something to watch. They wanted good football, because there have been times in the past where Nichols had been good. They just, at the time, they were in a little bit of a slump, and they just had to get some stuff right. And so whenever stuff started to get right, they were packing the stands. It was full. We had hosted playoff games there. We went to the quarterfinals a couple times. Played against the likes of Eastern Washington, where Cooper Kupp went to school at. North Dakota State, where Carson Wentz and Trey Lance went to school at. And that's the powerhouse of the FCS football landscape. But we went to Kansas and beat Kansas. Beat a Big 12 school. So the roller coaster of how far down they were and then how high they got, the support was unbelievable. And that's maybe not quite to the same extent. I know it was I mean, it was just 2016, 17, or when was the last time they won a championship here? It was when Coach Jordan was here. So I mean, it was not that long ago that Riverside had been on the top, you know. So there was, of course, a little bit of a slump over the past couple of years, but the support was there. They just didn't show up, you know. And so seeing the people coming back, it was honestly a pretty similar situation. It was you give people what they want to see, you know, and you guys were. It's not like y'all had bad players, you know. The players were good. We just had to change a couple things, you know. And so seeing the change and seeing the senior class, our 9 seniors, I mean, that was awesome. That was awesome to see that they wanted to be the disciplined, good group. They just didn't know how, you know. And sometimes you just got to see how to do it, how to know that 3:50 or 3:10, if meetings start, you need to be there by the latest 3:07, 3:08, you know, and that mentality rather than, oh, if they start at 3:10, I'm not going to miss anything if I get there at 3:14. I'm not going to miss a whole lot. Well, that whether you miss a whole lot or not, that's not what matters. It matters being where you're supposed to be at the right times, you know, and that's what the change has been, and that's what's been awesome. And so, I mean, the playoff game was unbelievable. Seeing how many people were there to support you guys. I mean, that was awesome to see. So, like, that's what's been so mirrored and so nice to see is that level of people just want to see good ball. In South Louisiana, that's what you want to see is good ball.
Yeah. Bringing back the meetings part, what happened yesterday at the meeting we had for football?
Oh, I mean, it was awesome. You're talking about. I got goosebumps right now thinking about it. I know
Yeah, me too.
That's a Coach Lee thing right there. You know, I got chill bumps right now. But I mean, it's the truth. Like, it's people want to be around, you know, and like wanting to be around your teammates and your buddies and stuff. Like, that's the coolest part of football. You know, like of course, I remember playing in this game, playing in that game, but I don't remember a whole lot of specific plays. Like, oh, whenever we ran this play, this is what happened. I don't remember a ton of those. I remember for 2-a-days, whenever we had 2-a-days, my buddies would come home with me. We'd go and sit in the pool, and then my mom would make a lasagna, and we'd all eat, take a nap, and then go back to practice. And like spending time with my friends, you know, lifelong friends. I got one of my buddies he's a linebackers coach at De La Salle. Me and him talk all the time, and him, me, Chase Forcade, that was a quarterback at Nichols for the 4 years I was there, and my buddy Ryan that comes around all the time, dude with the long hair. I mean, that was our 4 captains of my senior year, and I talk to those guys every single day, and like that's the stuff that matters, and that stuff is built by spending an extra 5 minutes before the meeting starts just talking about not even about football, just about life, you know, like making jokes, cutting up with each other. That's the part of the game that matters to me, you know. And so that's what's tough for me to see whenever you ask somebody like, hey man, you want to come play football? Like, this isn't a situation where you're gonna go out in the field and get clowned. Like, we're not gonna put you in that situation. I want you to come and be a part of this. I want you to be a part and see how important it is to learn discipline, learn to be on time, and hang out with your buddies, you know. Like, that's the part of it that's so much fun.
Right. So whenever, like, you know, you said that you lived in Kenner, correct? So you moved out here recently?
So I lived in Kenner, and then of course went to LSU, lived in Baton Rouge, went to Nichols, lived in Thibodaux, loved my time in Thibodaux, and then whenever I got the job here, the first month or two I was still commuting from Thibodaux, and then my girlfriend and I, we ended up moving to a place in Metairie. She is a pediatric ICU nurse at Children's Hospital. So it was a little bit of a drive for me, a little less of a drive for her, but still a drive. And then we recently moved to Mandeville into a nice little house. Got a front yard, a backyard for the dog to play in a nice little neighborhood. I love where I live and I love where I work. So it's a drive. I ain't gonna lie to you. It's a little drive, but I get to drink my coffee in the morning on the way to work. I get to unwind for a little bit after practice, listen to the radio. So I'm at the point where I don't really mind the drive anymore. But yeah, I've moved a couple times. That's been my MO. I mean, when I was at LSU, my first year I lived in a dorm. Then I moved to an apartment my second year. When I was in Thibodaux, my first 2 years I lived in an apartment, and then the next 3 I lived somewhere else. And I lived for a year in Metairie. So I just been kind of moving, but that's kind of the name of the game, you know. Whenever, especially the stuff that I want to do, you know, I want to coach eventually in college at the NFL level. Like, that's that's what my dreams and aspirations are one day. I want to be one of the 32. You know, I want to be one of the 32. I want to be coaching for one of the 32 teams in the NFL. And sometimes, good or bad, you got to move. So I'm kind of used to that, and Cassidy's kind of getting on board with that. I mean, she's a nurse; she can work anywhere. So that's kind of what life has been. It's been a little bit of moving. Hopefully, I can stay here for a little while, though. That's the hope.
So
If you had to estimate, like, from, I know you weren't here before this year, but like building up to this year, I would say that like this year is like a very big like jump from the support. Like Dane was showing up to football games with wall paint all over him, and like, would you see like crazy things like that at Nichols? Like,
Absolutely. I mean, Thibodeau is a wild place, man. I don't know how to describe it. I mean, it's a pretty similar place though, as far as like they have people that are from there, live there their whole life, want to support that place, and I mean, it's very similar to here. They have people from here that maybe weren't on board for an amount of time in their life, but they're back. This is what they want to support, and I mean, when you're supporting the place that you went to school at, or your kids go to school at, or you got family from here, or just, I mean, it's people say that. Years ago, it was a Riverside St. Charles game would shut down the whole town. I mean, you come in to see Riverside and St. Charles play, and that's the kind of world we want to get back to. It's old school South Louisiana football. People talk about, they have a ton of athletes come out of Texas and South Florida, but per capita, South Louisiana, there's nowhere else in the world that so many professional athletes come from, and I don't know what's in the water down here, but it's different. You know, it's just different.
river water.
It's different.
So about having to move and stuff. You've been experiencing like multiple different jobs. So what are some of the like different jobs that you've been through?
Okay, so my first job in high school, I worked at Papa John's. I had to remember it was Papa John's Pizza Hut. I worked at Papa John's.
Papa John's.
I worked at I put the boxes together in the back because they come flat. The cardboard boxes come flat. You fold them up into a box. And I worked at the front counter. So I would answer the phone. Welcome to Papa John's. What can I get for you? You can get a large pepperoni, whatever. Well, I was doing this. This was after football season ended, my senior year, and I was still, like I said, I was a student body president, and student council was something that was big at Ramblin and mattered a lot to me. So I was there still after school every day, and so whenever I applied at Papa John's, I applied to work as a part-time, maybe 20 hours a week max. And then I was also doing track. I was on shot putting discus in high school, and so I didn't have overwhelming amounts of time, so I asked if I could work part-time, and they put me on the schedule for like 45 hours the first week I worked there. And I worked that week, and then the next week was the Super Bowl weekend. It was Super Bowl weekend the following week. And I was on the schedule to work 60 hours that week and work the entire Super Bowl. And I was like, I can't do this. I do too much stuff at school. I literally can't do this. So I called the lady after a week, and I was like, I'm sorry, ma'am, I can't do this. This isn't. I asked if I could work part-time. You got me on a full-time schedule. I ain't about to work Super Bowl, man. I love football more than anything. Come on now. So I ended up. I think that might be the only job that I actually quit from. Like quit from. So worked for a week at Papa John's. So after that, when I got to LSU, my first year there, I didn't work, and then after that, so I was there first 2 semesters, a full year, and then at Christmas time, that's when I called Coach Lee and asked if I can come to Nichols. He was like, yeah, it might be a little too late for this semester. Could you come in the summer? I was like, you know what, that works out perfect. My lease doesn't end until May. All good. I'll just work. So instead of paying the obscene prices at LSU and not having a lot of classes transfer, because that's just how it was, I had more hours in high school from dual enrollment classes with Southeastern than I did for my year and a half in school at LSU, because classes just didn't transfer to Nichols. So I lost all that time, all that money. So I talked to my parents, and they were like, well, look, why don't we just not pay LSU prices for this semester, this semester, just work, and then we'll get you back in school whenever we get to Nichols. I'm like, all right, cool, good idea, that's what we're going to do. So this guy, his name was Jason Ural. He worked at this place called Guardian Services. His daughter was a cheerleader at Rummel. He played football there. Whenever we won our state championship rings, there was a bunch of people that were like alumni, that's who bought our rings. That's who paid for our rings. Because you get a certain amount of money allotted from the state, but the more stuff you want in your ring, the more it costs. And you got to come up with the cost yourself as a school. Where they had alumni that would say, look, I'll buy 3 rings. I want to buy the center's ring, the left guard's ring, the left tackle's ring. This guy was an offensive lineman. So that's how I started to build a relationship with Jason. Well, I gave him a call. And he had told me, he was like, look, I work at this place. If you ever need a job or something, just hit me up. I was like, all right, you know what? Perfect. So I call him, like, Jason, I'm not in school right now for the next semester. Is there anything that I can do to work? So their Guardian Services is a place that repossesses cars that weren't paid. So it's a repo lot, basically. They have one in Kenner, that's where the main office is, but they have one in, like, Denham Springs area. I was like, all right, cool. So he asked me if I could be the lot manager. I sit at the lot. It's literally a lot full of cars and 2 storage units. Like, we have the chairs and the desk in the back by the band hall, and just 2 storage containers. And every car, whenever they got repossessed, they would have the people that would tow the car there. They would empty out the car in the trash bags, label the trash bags, and put them in the storage units. I would organize the storage units, and as people would come and they say, look, I'm either here, I paid off my car, here's my receipt, I'm here to get my car back, or, hey, I'm not going to pay off this car, I'm just going to let it get repossessed, I just want to get my belongings back. So I'd hand them the trash bag full of stuff. Obviously, people that had their car repossessed, and now they have somebody got into their car, touched all their stuff, put it in the trash bag. They're not the most enthused about the situation. So I had a lot of pretty angry people in Denham Springs come and talk to me. But my cop-out was, look, I'm sorry about this. This is what happened. I'm very sorry about that. I'm not the one that touched your stuff. I'm really sorry, but here's your bag of stuff. You can sign, all that, and get the stuff back. Well, after like 2 months, 60 days the stuff was held. And they would be notified, like, hey, your stuff's in the unit. Come pick your stuff up. Well, if they didn't come for 60 days, there's only so much space in those storage units, so I was instructed I had to throw the stuff away. So I had to put it into the trash cans, and I had to like look through and make sure there's no like a checkbook or like a debit card or a license or anything with their name on it. I had to shred that stuff. So I mean, there was some crazy stuff in there. I mean, I'm talking like Xboxes and basketballs.
Did you take it?
I'm not legally allowed to take something like that. Why would I do something like that? So I would put the stuff in the trash can and call it a day. But yeah, I mean, it was a cool job. I worked there for a while, and then that last it was about March of my last year at LSU. I actually got really sick, like really sick. I went home the day of Endymion actually, so like right in Mardi Gras season. It was March that year. I went home to help my parents. They were redoing their garden or something. Well, I'm a bigger dude than my dad, so he asked me, he's like, hey, look, I got to get this tree out of the garden. I can't pull this thing out. I mean, my dad's 50 years old at this point. He's still in good shape. He acts like he's not, but he's still in good shape. He probably could have done it, but he asked me to. I'm a bigger dude, whatever. So I pulled this tree out, and I end up, I hadn't worked out in years. I end up, like, tearing a muscle. Especially on people, really thin people, you can see if they turn, like this muscle you can see in their neck, it's called a sternocleidomastoid. SCM, I think is what the abbreviation's for. Yeah. Either SCM or STM.
Yeah.
So I ended up tearing that muscle, and there was like a pocket in the muscle that blood fills with, and it ended up getting infected with this crazy bacteria called Fusobacterium. And I don't mean to be too graphic, but it's a flesh-eating bacteria. Mm-hmm. So it like tears away and like eats away at muscle. So after like a week, the next day I was sore, and I was like, I didn't pull nothing, tear nothing. I mean, I just ain't worked out in forever, and now I'm doing manual labor. I'm a little sore. Oh well. So I go back to school after Mardi Gras holiday, and it's probably a week, and I started to get like really sick. I thought I had the flu. Like I was not keeping anything down. Wasn't able to eat. Ended up losing over like a 3-week period. Lost like 35 pounds. Like so, very unhealthy. And so I told my mom, I was like, Mom, I need to go to the doctor. Like something is not right. And I started to have like this big bump on my neck. Well, I ended up going to the doctor. They keep me overnight. I ended up not leaving the hospital for 3.5 weeks.
Oh, wow.
I was in the hospital, had multiple surgeries, had to get it drained. I mean, I've torn my ACL, I broke my leg, I've broken ribs, I've broken wrists. Like I've had injuries in my life. Nothing hurt like this did. Like they had a tube in my neck that the stuff would drain out of. It was miserable. It was miserable. It was painful. The most painful thing I've ever dealt with. And there was a point that they didn't know what the bacteria was exactly, and so none of the antibiotics were working. So after I had my first surgery, it was starting to like grow back, and there was a night that the doctor came and told me, if you're able to make it to the next morning, we're gonna have another surgery. If was the word he used. So like I'm 20 years old.
Freaking out.
I'm freaking out. I mean, I still have a little scar right here on my neck you can kind of see. But I mean, I'm sitting in the room with my mom, and I look at my mom, and I was like, Mom, I might not make it through the night. Like it was literally terrifying. It's terrifying. And I didn't tell anybody. So like my roommates thought I had been sick before, but they had thought I was just in my room sick, and so they called me. They're like, "Well, dude, we ain't seen you in like 3 days. Or do you need us to bring anything in your room?" I was like, "Well, I'm actually in the hospital. I've had surgery. I'm in New Orleans right now." And they were like, "What?" So they drove down and came and saw me. My roommates did, and a couple people came and saw me in the hospital. But I wasn't really telling anybody what was going on. But yeah, I mean, it was scary. It was a scary situation. And Jason, my boss, he told me, he was like, "Look, I'm gonna keep you on payroll. I'm gonna continue to pay you, even though I know you're not able to work. Like, whenever you get healthy, you can come back. But up until then, take care of you." And that was a big, like, I mean, I remember I was sitting in my bed. I'm like, I started to tear up because I'm like, that's a good person doing something for somebody, you know. And so yeah, that job was, I know we're talking about the job of Guardian Services, but I mean that was a cool job. And then after that, I went to Nichols and started working as a student assistant, then a GA intern type job, and here I am now.
So since you worked at Papa John's, do you still eat their pizza?
Nah, I don't like Papa John's. I don't like Papa John's at all. I like Pizza Hut's my favorite of the big three. Papa John's, Pizza Hut, Domino's. Pizza Hut's number one for me, then Domino's, and then a Big Gap, and then Papa John's.
Really?
And not because like I think it's gross the way they were clean, all that good stuff. It's nothing like that. Nothing like that.
I was just about to ask that.
Right? Yeah. No, it's not like they were dirty or messy or anything like that. They were by the book. Everything was clean, done with gloves. Very like they have specific cups for cheese, specific cups for meats. You know, like they did a good job. I don't know. I just didn't like. After that, I wasn't vibing with the pizza.
Just wasn't good pizza?
Wasn't my pizza no more.
Was it like that you ate it so much that it just...
Well, I only worked there for a week, so I can only eat so much pizza in a week. But, I mean, we talked about it. I like to eat, so, you know, it is what it is.
So is there like any food spots like where you're from that you just... That's like your go-to when you go out there?
All right, so...
Number
one, Tasty Donuts. I'm from Kenner. Anybody from Kenner knows Tasty Donuts is the way.
Tasty Donuts is the best.
Tasty Donuts is the way.
Which one?
Talking Tasty Donuts of Loyola, the only one. That's the right one. Not the one by EJ. That ain't the same one. It ain't the same. Not the one over there by East Jefferson Hospital. It's not the same. The one in Kenner, that red light's on, it's over with. I'll never forget. We get back. So when Hurricane Katrina hit, I was in 3rd grade. My parents and I, we went to my grandmother's house. She lived in Grayson, Louisiana, which I don't know if you were on the team then whenever y'all played Caldwell Parish, but that's where my granny lives. So that's Caldwell Parish, where they all went to high school. So up in that area is where we went for the hurricane. Well, she worked at Energy New Orleans at the time, so we were able to come back a little early. She got us a pass to come back into the city a little bit earlier than everybody else. I know y'all were babies if you were even born whenever Katrina hit, but y'all were little. So I was probably 8, 9 years old. Well, I will never forget, we get off the interstate at Loyola, go back to my parents' house in Kenner, and the only, like, there was no power anywhere, but there was a generator, and the red light was spinning at Tasty Donuts. So, like, that's when you knew we had a chance. So we stopped, before we even get to the house, we didn't even see the house yet, we stopped at Tasty Donuts and got a couple dozen. Whenever I was in the hospital, I talked about it. The one thing I wanted was a Tasty Donut burger. It's a burger, but the buns are donuts.
Oh, my gosh.
Over with.
Oh, I'm killing that.
Yeah.
I'm killing
it's
that.
just ground meat and cheese on a
It's just meat and cheese, and your buns are toasted. They cut the donut in half and they toast it. I mean, it's diabetes in a meal. It's bad.
Oh my god,
man, it's unbelievable.
It's not like Dunkin'.
Look, no shade, but Tasty is better. I will admit, Tasty is better.
That's my place. I sent Scott a couple weeks ago. Scott and his dad after the track meet's been going to some place in New Orleans. Company Burgers, one of my favorite burgers out there. I like Smash Burger. I like burgers a lot. I like Smash Burger. I like Tommy Burgers.
I make my own.
What's your favorite kind of like things that you put on a burger?
I'm a ketchup and mustard for sure. Mayo, but not too much. I'm not a big mayo guy. I like a little mayo. I want lettuce. I don't vibe with tomatoes. Not a tomatoes guy.
Amen.
I like a little bit of pickles. I used to not like pickles growing up, but I like a little bit of pickles. Gotta have cheese. Yeah, I mean, that's my burger right there. That's my burger.
Very, very simple. Do you put
meat?
any like aioli or anything? Nothing.
So Company Burger has 3 different aiolis. That's what they do for the mayonnaise. They have a little station. There's like a garlic. There's like a sriracha. There's like a habanero. Like all kind of different aiolis. If that's offered, I'm with it. I'm with trying something like that. I'm okay with that not being a staple though. I'm okay with that.
Right.
But I do like changing it up a little bit. I'm not an egg on a burger guy though. Not
Really?
at all. I know some people love that. I'm not. I can't do that. I don't like a runny egg. Like the only kind of eggs I eat is scrambled eggs or omelets. Like I don't eat sunny side up. I don't eat over easy. That's not.
What about like deviled eggs?
Oh no way. I
Really?
can't do deviled eggs. I'm not a huge
wow.
egg guy.
Lee,
That is
get out.
surprising. That is
Get out,
I'm
Lee.
sorry.
That
I
is
just- I don't like
surprising.
deviled eggs. That's
You
not my
ate,
world.
what
We
is
had-
what is deviled eggs?
Deviled eggs is like
Like you got a hard boiled egg.
yeah.
Okay.
You slice it open and take the yolk out,
All right.
and you season the yolk with some kind of seasonings, whatever you
Mix
want.
stuff up in the yolk.
Basically, it
and then
becomes a
put it back
stuffing type
together.
situation. You put it back on the like open faced egg. So I mean, it's just a hard boiled egg. It's really a hard boiled egg.
It's a seasoned hard boiled egg. Yeah.
I don't eat hard boiled eggs. I did when I was a kid though, man. I used to kill them, but not anymore. Maybe I ate them too much when I was little. I don't know.
So what do you do for like? Do you like have any like nieces, nephews that you like will do like Easter stuff with?
Yeah. I mean, my little brother actually is like 13.
Mhm.
He's in 7th grade right now. He's going to Jesuit next year. He's coming over this weekend. Little Sai's coming over. We're gonna hang out. I'm going kayaking with him on Saturday morning.
Really?
Yeah, it's not really my world, but that's what he likes. So I'm gonna go kayaking with him. We're gonna have a good time. He's coming to stay at my house on Friday night. But yeah, for Easter, I mean, I'm gonna just hang out while I eat deviled eggs. I'm just not gonna eat them. You know, I'll eat the other stuff. For Easter this year, we had a ribeye roast, mashed potatoes, deviled eggs, like a spinach madeleine type thing, a BLT salad, and I ate the meat and potatoes. I'm a meat and potatoes guy. One of my favorite meals at Riverside is the meatloaf day. People sleep on the meatloaf. The meatloaf
do.
ain't bad.
The meatloaf ain't.
It ain't bad,
It ain't
bro. It's my
not bad
favorite
at
meal
all.
here. Over the chili mac, over the chicken stew.
Oh wow.
I'm allergic to shellfish, so I can't eat the shrimp fettuccine. People love that one. I can't eat that one,
That one's
unfortunately.
my
I was about to say that. Do you eat like any crawfish, seafood, nothing like
So
that?
up until I was like 12 years old, I wasn't allergic to shellfish. But I found out through trial and error that I am allergic, so I
What
can't
happened?
eat that stuff anymore. Whenever I eat it, my mouth will get itchy. I'll throw up. My throat starts to swell up and stuff. But
Is it
I mean,
worth
that's only if I eat like a crawfish. So like if I had like a plate full of crawfish, it might kill me. I don't know. I ain't trying to press the issue.
I was
But
just about to say, is it worth it?
yeah, to me, it's not. My favorite food
I
in the world
wouldn't.
is char grilled oysters, though.
Ooh.
I went to
Oysters.
school with this guy. His name is Josh Satanovich. His dad's name is Tommy Satanovich, and he owns Drago's.
My dad used to be the head chef at Drago.
So he probably knows Mr. Tommy.
Probably so.
So they drive, the big fire truck, the fire truck with
Yes.
I bet your dad probably worked with that thing once or
Probably
twice.
so.
So they would bring that to our football games. Josh was a year younger than me, his son. So, I mean, they would come to the football games and make char grilled oysters, and I mean, I'd crush it. Crush it. It's my favorite food in the world. But about my 7th, 8th grade year, I figured out I'm allergic, so I can't eat that no more. And it was tough. It was tough.
So have you had like the Sicilies that used to be on LaPlace?
So listen. So when I was at Nichols,
Okay.
in Houma, Louisiana,
Uh-huh.
which is about 15 minutes from Nichols, there is a Sicily's Ultimate Italian Buffet.
Uh-huh.
My buddy Wes was a GA that worked with the special teams. Now he's from Mississippi, works in Mississippi, at a high school in Mississippi. Him and I would go on. So during fall camp, every Sunday, Coach Rebo, who was the head coach, he would have the team go to a different type of church, like a Baptist church, like a Southern Baptist church, and then maybe a little bit of a Northern Baptist church, a Catholic church, a non-denominational church, like different churches. Because I mean, you're in college at this point. Not everybody comes from the same places. Not everybody comes from the same religious backgrounds. So it was something where it was a place that he would go for, make sure they had a good message and stuff like that, and he would take the team there. So on Sundays, after we go to whatever kind of a church it was, Wes and I, we would go to Sicily's Ultimate Italian Buffet and absolutely destroy it.
Right.
I mean, I'm talking the buffalo chicken pizza, the fried chicken, the mac and cheese, the dessert pizzas. The dessert pizzas would set it over the top. And also, they had a Guitar Hero set up in there. Now, I was
I
They
think
had the
they had
Guitar
one.
Hero set up in ours
Yep.
too.
Yep.
22 years old, crushing Guitar Hero. I mean, going after it. Me and Wes sitting in there. They got kids waiting behind us. We putting quarters in. We playing One by Metallica, getting after it on guitar. I mean, absolutely. I mean, this was 18 months ago. This was not that long ago. Like this was very recent. Yeah, but man, I love Sicily's. Love it. The blueberry pizza is probably my favorite thing in the whole place.
Blueberry pizza.
The s'mores pizza is probably my
S'mores pizza, precious.
s'mores pizza. Oh my God.
So whenever Laplace Sicily shut down, it was replaced with Johnny's Pizza.
Mm-hmm.
Have you had it?
Not yet. Not yet.
Do you want to try it?
Absolutely. If there's a pizza, I want to try it.
Right.
My favorite place, I meant to mention this. My favorite place to get pizza at New Orleans is this place called Theo's. They got one in Elmore, they got one in Magazine, they got one in Metairie. It's a thin New York type style pizza. Not quite as floppy as in New York though. I mean, it's a little crispy.
Then they're big.
Big pizza, nice good pepperonis, flat pepperonis. I don't like how Reginelli's has like the pepperonis that fold up. I know that's more of a true pepperoni. That's just not the pepperoni I grew up on. It's not what I love. Mm-hmm. And they have great ranch. I love a pepperoni pizza and some ranch. That's my world all day.
So what else do you put ranch on?
Oh, so my girlfriend's from Texas. Texas people love their ranch.
Mm-hmm.
Cassidy loves ranch. She'll put it on anything. So I'm at the point now that I'm trying ranch on whatever. I mean, if it's anything from like celery to pizza to chicken nuggets, anything in that world, any dippable. I mean, you got a French fry and put ranch on it. She'll go dip like a mozzarella stick in ranch. Which
wow.
That's not my world. I'm not open up to that yet. I'm still a marinara guy with my mozzie sticks, but she'll dip anything in ranch. It's crazy.
That is crazy.
That's wild.
I've never heard of.
I've never heard that one.
She's weird, man. She loves ranch like you wouldn't believe.
All right. Well, that's a long episode, 41 minutes so far. So, anything else you got to say to just anyone listening?
Yeah, I mean, I want to say I think it's cool that y'all do this, man. I know I've talked to Noah about this. I haven't talked to you quite as much about it, Lee, but I know that this seems like something that y'all want to go pursue in life, and that's awesome. That's awesome that you're able to do this now, you know. And so, like anybody that has any kind of passion, whether that's for me, it was ball, you know, it's football, and it took me a while to get back into it, and I lost time in my life doing stuff I didn't want to do before getting back into what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. Trust yourself. Trust what you want to do. And there's always some kind of there's an avenue for somebody everywhere to do whatever it is that you want to do. Find a passion and enjoy it. I mean, you saw me yesterday. I mean, yesterday's the first time I got to teach football, which teaching math is cool. I mean, it is what it is. Not everybody in the world loves teaching math, but I'll tell you what, I love teaching power and counter, you know, football. That's what I love to teach. Mm-hmm. That's what I really love to teach, and so that's what's fun, man. Finding what you love to do and just getting after it, because that's what's gonna make you be good at whatever it is that you're doing.
You gotta make sure you love it.
Gotta make sure you love it.
You gotta make sure you pick a thing that you're gonna be happy with for the rest of your life.
It ain't all about the money. The money will come, and a low-paying job to you whenever you're 16 years old might not be quite as low-paying as you realize whenever you're 26.
Gotcha. So thank you for being on this episode. Just have a good rest of your day, man.
All right, thank you guys.